in the chat box below. This meeting will be recorded, so you might see a box pop up on your screen that tells you that. So please just press continue if you feel comfortable with having it recorded. But for now, like I said, just enter your name and your school of attendance in the chat box, and we'll just wait a few minutes just so everybody can do that, and just in case anybody else wants to join our meeting. While you guys are doing that, just a couple other reminders. We will or give you an opportunity to ask brief questions at the end of the presentation. We're also going to be sharing a link with the Google folder so that you all can access the materials that we have for you. We're also going to have an opportunity drawing for any ETS participants. That'll be at the end of the presentation. And then we'll also talk about questions. So if you have any questions, you will be able to ask those at the end, or if you have any that require any additional, you can reach out to your ETS advisor. I'll reiterate this for the students that are joining, but like I said, for now, if you are new, if you're new, please put your name and your school of attendance. And just for everyone to know, if you could mute yourselves, just so we don't have any background noise during the presentation, that would definitely help. So we'll probably wait like another minute. We're supposed to start at 3:30, so I'll wait until like 3:33, and then we can get started. Okay, so I think we have people coming in, but I think we're okay to get started. Yeah. Should I wait a little longer? Okay, if you're new, please just introduce yourself with your name and your school of attendance. This is being recorded. You guys will have an opportunity to ask the questions. We'll give you access to the Google folder, and then we'll have our opportunity drawing. And then if you have any questions, you can put those in the chat, and we will be able to answer those at the end. But we're going to get started just, because of time. You can go to the next slide. Okay, thank you. So hi everyone, welcome to today's presentation about kicking off your senior year. My name is Sienna Bush. I am the South Bay Program Specialist, and I'm going to let our other presenters introduce themselves. Today is pretty much just about giving you all some information just to help you prepare for next year. So if the other presenters want to introduce yourself, you can go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Diana Lazo. I'm one of the other program specialists for ETS, and I kind of work more on the admin side.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jocelyn Garcia, and I'm also one of the program specialists, and I work with the Compton Long Beach schools.
Okay, so those are our presenters for today. If you have any questions, like I said, please put them in the chat. And now we're just going to go on and move to the agenda that we have, just so you all have a better idea of what we're going to focus on today. So first, we're going to go over college options. We're going to go over the main four, just so you all can have an idea of like the GPA requirements, the requirements that you need for each one, and the schools that are under each one. We're also going to review the A through Gs. I know most of you are probably like, oh, I know those, but just to give you a refresher of what they are. Financial aid, very briefly, so just explaining what it is, the application and the 4 different types. And then college testing information. We do have some updates for you all about college testing, and then also testing prep resources. So just a few like websites or other resources that you can use to prepare for those tests. Then we're going to discuss time management. After that, we'll talk about the next steps that you have to take. And then lastly, we're going to go over some of our upcoming ETS events that you all can attend after this one. And then once again, we'll end with questions and the opportunity drawing. Okay, so here are the 4 main college options. And we're pretty much going to start with the California State University schools. So here you can see that the GPA requirement is a 2.0 GPA, but it might be a little bit higher, so like a 2.5 for some campuses. It just depends on the campus that you want to go to. So if you have a few in mind or you want to know for sure, I just recommend that you look on their website, like their admissions website, or you can ask your ETS advisor to figure that out for you. But if you can, just for that 2.0 between that 2.5 range or higher. You do have to complete the 15 A through G requirements. So like I said, if you don't remember what those are, we will go over them. And then just to give you all an idea, some of the CSUs that we have out here, or at least in the local area, are like CSU LA, Long Beach State, Northridge, Cal Poly Pomona, Sonoma State, Humboldt, and then I went to San Diego State. So now we're going to move on to the UCs. So for University of California, which are also known as UCs, you do need to have a 3.0 GPA or higher. These also require you to complete the A through G, so the 15 A through Gs that I discussed earlier. And then some of the schools that you might be familiar with are Berkeley, UCLA, UC Riverside, Irvine, Merced, UC San Diego, Santa Barbara, and Santa Cruz. Then moving on to private and independent universities, everything ranges or varies. So when it comes to GPA, you need to have like a 2.0 or between 3.0. So somewhere in that range or higher, it really just depends on the school. So once again, like I said, with the CSUs, if you want to know or have a definite answer, I recommend doing your own research or talking to your ETS advisors to find out what your school, what their recommendation or what the requirement is. And then once again, it varies depending on like what school you want to go to in terms of requirements. So some of them, they might want you to complete the A through Gs, or most schools do want you to complete the A through Gs. They might have like personal statements, other requirements that you have to do, like other little steps that you have to take. So it really just depends on that school. But some that might, be familiar are USC, LMU, Occidental, Pepperdine, Stanford, Biola, Whittier, Harvard. So those are just some like out here in California, but if you do want to go to like a private independent university, there are others outside of it as well. And then community colleges. So for community colleges, there is no GPA requirement. However, you do have to be either a high school graduate or at least 18 years old. So some of those are like Cerritos, Long Beach City, Santa Monica College, LA Harbor, Southwest. So you might have heard of those as well, or even taken like dual enrollment classes there. All right. So going on to the A through Gs, like I said, you are probably familiar with these already, but just in case, the A through Gs are pretty much a sequence of high school courses that students must complete with a C or better. So you have to get a C or higher in these classes to be minimally eligible for admission into either the UCs or CSUs. So if you plan on applying to CSUs or UCs, just make sure that you complete these, but also remember that that's just like the minimum. So it's really good to excel in your classes, do your best, and not just reach for the minimum. If you can do, beyond that, that's great. And honestly, it only helps you. So in terms of the minimum though, we do want to point out that for like social science or history, you do have to complete 2 years of that. For English, you have to complete 4 years. For math, be sure to complete Algebra 1 and 2 and geometry. And within those, you have to take 3 years before is, recommended. And then for science, something similar. So you have to take like either bio, chemistry, and physics. And that is 2 years, but 3 years are recommended. Um, Moving on to the language other than English, here you can see that there's 2 years, but 3 years are recommended. And within those 2 or 3 years or however many you take, you do have to take the same language. So you can't, take Spanish and then skip over to maybe French. You'll have to take Spanish the same 2 years or for that 2 year period. Also for visual and performing arts, you have 1 year, but you can take courses that are under the same discipline. So for example, you could take like art and maybe like ceramics if that's under the same discipline for your school. So just make sure that if you're unsure about that or you want like clarification, you can either ask your counselor or your ETS advisor just so you're not taking two classes that might not be under the same discipline. And then there's college prep electives. So these vary per school, like Narbonne might have different ones than like Dominguez. So college prep electives, those are different, but say that you take an extra class from one of these other areas like math or science or language, that can also count for a college prep elective if you take extra. Right. And then with financial aid, so we just wanted to briefly go over this just so you all know like what you have to do in order to apply for financial aid, what types of financial aid there are, and to give you an idea of like the timeline with financial aid. So pretty much the timeline for FAFSA is from October 1st to March 2nd. And you're probably like, well, most of you probably know what the FAFSA is, but that stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. So you are going to have to fill out this FAFSA in order to get financial aid. And like I said, you can start applying October 1st, but if you would like to be in that priority deadline, which we highly encourage, you would have to make sure that your application is submitted by March 2nd. So just know that like really your deadline to submit it is March 2nd, but you can start applying as soon as possible. So yeah. And then here on the side, you all will have a copy of this. This is the financial aid 101 sheet, but basically it breaks down what each financial aid type is. So for scholarships, that's pretty much free money awarded to students who apply for it. So there might be local scholarships, you might have some at your school or your church. So that is free money that you would be awarded. And then grants, that's also free money, but it's awarded to qualifying students. So most of the time, students out here, they'll get like the Cal grant. So that's like from either your university or like the federal government, but that's also free money that you do not have to pay back. And then work study, this is pretty much federal aid that allows you to like find an on-campus job and you can work on campus. And a lot of students do use work study because it's paid to them as they work throughout the semester, and then they can decide on how to use that, whether it's like for tuition or for other things. And then there's loans. So loans is borrowed money. And a lot of students might be, afraid or hesitant to receive loans because they know it is borrowed money that you're going to have to pay back. But depending on your situation, they can help. So that is an option. Just know that it is an option. And like, if you want to talk to your advisor, if you want to be, helped throughout the loan process of getting a loan, then you can have that assistance as well. So just speaking of other assistance from your ETS advisor, just to give you like a brief overview, they can help you understand these financial aid types in more detail since we briefly went over it. Also help you with the FAFSA application from start to finish, and then also accepting your financial aid once you realize like which types you're getting.
Okay, thank you, Sienna. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about college testing and some of the updates that we've heard within like the past academic year. So many of you have probably heard about the SAT or the ACT test from previous years. Maybe some of you even actually took the PSAT before we went to remote learning, right? So for this year, many of the seniors, that test was optional, either the SAT or the ACT. So from what we know now and what have College Board has said, the SAT and the ACT will be considered optional for most four-year universities or colleges for also this upcoming admission cycle. So not only for the seniors that are the seniors right now, but for you guys as well. And again, this is just what we know of so far as what College Board has released. But I do kind of want to specify what it means when some colleges say that these tests are optional or flexible or test blind. So they are going to consider these test scores for the SAT or the ACT in the following ways. So the first one, when I say that these test scores are optional, the universities will let you decide if you want to submit those test scores. So if you submit them, the school will take the SAT or the ACT scores into consideration, but may focus really more on other parts of your application, especially when looking at the UC application that does a holistic review process. And you're going to learn a little bit more about that coming senior year. Then we have test flexible. So that means that they will allow you to submit scores for the SAT or the ACT or a different test in their place, such as like an AP test. So it's really kind of for you to decide what scores you want to submit. And then we have the test blind scores. So these, when I say test blind, they will not consider any scores, even if you include them in the application. So if you kind of want to know a little bit more if your school is going to be a test optional or a test blind school, I would advise you to reach out to your academic advisor or your ETS advisor so that they can kind of help you see how that kind of is going to work. But many of you are probably asking, well, why should I take the SAT or the ACT if it's considered optional, right? So what College Board and many of the universities have said is that this exam or these test scores can help with placement for English and your math classes come in college. So when you have taken the SAT and the ACT, which I'll explain more in detail how they're formatted in the next slide, a lot of the scores are pretty much split in like the English and the math section. And so that can kind of help see if you're going to need remedial classes in college or if you can kind of start off at the level that most freshmen start off with. So it can definitely help in that aspect, but it can also help with some merit-based scholarships that do also require the SAT and the ACT score as part of their application. So some examples of scholarships with the SAT and the ACT test scores within their application is the Questbridge Scholarship, which I know many of you have probably heard of before, but this one just encourages those test scores. So again, you can include it in your application and it's just kind of going to be one thing that they're going to review in terms of everything else. And this includes like personal statements, letters of rec, and all that kind of stuff. I know the Gates Millennium Scholarship, which is probably another scholarship that you've heard of before, also encourages these test scores. So many of them are still changing whether they actually are going to make it a requirement, but it doesn't hurt to take those tests and kind of get your application an extra boost, right? So the most competitive scholarships nationwide really encourage students to take these tests if possible, right? But if you're applying to local and community scholarships, they might also require you to include these test scores. So it's just a matter of understanding kind of what the scholarship requirements are and speaking with your ETS advisor to see kind of what you're going to need for those applications. But I also want to talk a little bit about some COVID updates for the test. So if you do decide to take the test in person, all test centers, which usually, again, you take the test on a weekend, those test centers are required to follow COVID guidelines. So it's going to be social distance, you're going to need to wear a mask, all that kind of stuff, and just follow any requirements that College Board might send you the day before or a few days before. There is limited test capacity in certain areas due to obviously the public health regulations. So before, there used to be maybe about 30 to 40 students per test. Right now, that number might be a little less because again, with social distancing, that's going to be less students within a classroom. And then test centers do make individual decisions about whether to administer the SAT, and they may close the day before administration, even up until that test day. So I've actually proctored for that SAT before, and unfortunately, there have been circumstances where they do cancel the test. Usually, College Board will instruct you, if that's your case, how to reschedule for the test. And because, everything's kind of ambiguous as far as like the confirmation of the day and how many people can test, they aren't really charging to reschedule that. So again, if that is your circumstance, if you are planning to take the test, just make sure you're following up and keeping up with the emails that College Board sends, because you want to make sure that you're able to take this test if space and time permits. So again, these are just the updates that we know at the moment, but due to the many changes that's happening right now, some requirements are subject to change. But if there are any changes, we will let you know in the upcoming months. And then I do want to take a little moment to kind of explain the difference between the SAT and the ACT and how they're structured. I know some of you might have heard about these tests before, but again, just want to give us a refresher. So with the SAT, it's broken down into 3 parts, right? The first part is reading, writing, and the language section. Then we have the math section, and then the essay, which is for this upcoming cycle, it is optional. So the format is usually that it's 3 hours and 50 minutes long, so basically 4 hours, right? The scoring is from 400 as the lowest score to 1600 as the highest score. And obviously you can register through that College Board. Most of you, if not all of you, should have an account by now. I know sometimes you have to do that for your AP testing. If you don't have a College Board account, that's something that you can reach out to your ETS advisor, and we can go ahead and help you create your account. Then we also have the ACT. And this one is split into 4 parts. So we have the English, math, reading, and we really recommend this test to students who feel like maybe they're a little bit stronger in science, because it does include that science section. And again, the essay part is optional. So this one is 3 hours, 40 minutes. It's, maybe 10 minutes less than the ACT, but, we always like to round up to like 4 hours. The scoring is 1 would be your lowest score and 36 would be the highest score. And then to register and to access all that information about the ACT, it would be through the website actstudent.org. The registration process is a little longer with the ACT because some questions you aren't able to skip ahead like you would with the SAT. So just kind of be aware of that and take the time to answer the questions. Sometimes it's questions about your grades and your classes and all that kind of stuff, but this just helps kind of create your student profile. So sometimes students ask if like one test is better than the other. Not necessarily. Like I said, I do when I was an advisor for my students who felt like they were stronger in the science section, I would recommend the ACT, but sometimes students felt a little bit more comfortable to take the SAT because they have taken the PSAT so many times. So it's really just a preference. And remember, as of now, what we know is that these tests are optional. So it's really up to you to kind of decide when and if you want to take them. You also have to take into consideration whether there's space available, right? The dates, sometimes they might have reduced dates because dates are canceled. So again, just keep in touch with your advisor to see when they're available and if you kind of want to take those. But now I kind of want to talk a little bit about fee waivers. So if you do decide to take the test, these are kind of how the fee waivers work. So as an ETS student, you do qualify for fee waivers. So for the SAT fee waiver specifically, these are kind of the conditions that they have. So you do have access to 2 free fee waivers that also cover the late registration fee, which that late registration fee usually is around $30. You have unlimited score reports, which show the results of your exam, and you can send them to as many schools as you're applying to. So if you're registering your ETS at the moment, your ETS advisor can help you submit those future score reports to different universities as you're registering for that exam. So that's why if you're ever considering registering, I would reach out to your ETS advisor so they can help you through that process. When you receive the SAT fee waiver, you also get your fees waived at participating colleges through College Board. So the UCs are part of those participating colleges. Therefore, by taking the SAT with a fee waiver, you can also apply to the UCs for free if you didn't initially qualify for the fee waiver through the UC application. So that's kind of one way that we're able to bypass that. But of course, that's only if you get the SAT fee waiver. If you know that this might be your circumstance, please reach out to your advisors to gain access to the UC fee waivers through your College Board account. So we can kind of show you how to access those and how to send them in and all that stuff. Now for the ACT fee waivers, it covers the registration fee and the late fees for the ACT test, which can be upwards to about $70. So it gains access to ACT test prep, which we will also provide free test prep for you guys in the next slide. And you will receive a report of your scores sent to your high school once you actually get those test scores, right? But while registering for the ACT, you can select up to 6 schools to also receive your test scores. So within the fee waiver, you can also go back and send your scores up to 20 schools for free, whereas those who do not have the fee waiver would have to be charged for every score they send. So it's really awesome to get the fee waiver because again, you can pretty much send your scores to how many schools that you do. I know many of you are thinking of applying to like UCs and Cal States and private and independent schools, so your college list can go up, and that's not a problem, but just make sure that you go ahead and send your scores to those schools individually, and your ETS advisors can help you kind of go through that process. But just some general test tips, because I know taking these tests, it is pretty long and it could be pretty scary, right? You want to make sure that if you are able to, you want to take the test as many times, especially if you qualify for those fee waivers. If, again, you maybe are considering a scholarship that you know that has those test scores as a requirement, that could be another motivator to take the test. If you know that maybe you're going to want those UC fee waivers because you know maybe your family makes a high income and you're not sure if you're going to qualify, again, that could be another motivator. So I do know that there's a lot of restrictions, right? Because maybe there's less test dates, maybe the test dates get canceled, but nonetheless, if you want to take those as many times as possible, we encourage you guys to do that. You want to send your scores each time you take the SAT or ACT. That's the biggest issues that we face with seniors. Sometimes they take the test and then they're like, oh, well, I don't know if I sent it or not. So, you know, save yourself that hassle. And as soon as you're registering, make sure that you select which schools you want to send your scores to. That way you're not kind of, after you're applying to college and everything else, and they remind you, hey, send your scores, you're going to already know that you did that. You're going to use your My ETS sheet to write down your username and your password. So with your ETS advisor, you're going to have a handout called a My ETS sheet. So what we do there is we track all your passwords and your usernames and stuff. So you're able to write it there or give your advisor access to that. That way, let's say once you graduate, you still need to access your College Board account for your AP scores or whatever that may be, we can give you that. And it's just an easier way to, you know, keep track of all your usernames and stuff. So also do not use your school email when creating an account, specifically with College Board. I know sometimes students forget their emails with College Board, so they try to create a second account or even a third account, right? But you want to make sure that you only have one account through College Board. So again, use an email that you still have access to, use a personal email, make sure it's professional. So just some things to keep in mind, right? And then you want to take advantage of the free test prep resources and, you know, really study for these exams. So we actually want to give you some free SAT and ACT practice test resources. So the first one is obviously Khan Academy. I don't know if many of you have had experience with using Khan Academy before, maybe not specifically for the SAT, but maybe you did it for your other classes. I know a lot of students use it like for AP exams, right? Or maybe, you know, you're not understanding something in class, and so you go ahead and kind of use those tutorials. So it's a really great resource. You're actually able to link your Khan Academy account with your College Board account, so that then it can see, okay, based on what you got in the SAT, you see these are the areas that you need strengthening. And so Khan Academy will send you specific modules to get help in those sections. It's a great resource. I know as an advisor, I really did this a lot with my juniors who were planning on taking the SAT, and their scores did improve a lot. So again, it's just a matter of you accessing these resources and using it as well. Then we have number 2 for the ACT. So with ACT, there's not, I feel like if you kind of research these online, maybe there's not as much that is free, right? But we know that number 2, some of my students before have also used this, and they say that it's a great resource as well. There's also fortest.com. So I think this is for both SAT and the ACT. If you're looking for practice tests, I believe there's some on this website as well. So that can kind of help you get prepared for testing. And then we also have Photo Study. So I really want to mention Photo Study. It's a free app for our ETS students, which allows you to get free tutoring for like biology, chemistry, physics, trig, geometry, algebra, but also as well as the SAT and ACT prep. So this app allows you to access a tutor via text, and it's really simple to use. All you have to do is submit a picture of the problem or the question you are having trouble with, and a tutor will respond to you right away. I always just to joke around that it was kind of like Uber but for tutoring, because someone will pick up your question right away, right? So this is definitely a great way to receive help without actually having to meet anyone. If you don't really want to meet anyone, you just kind of want an explanation to the problem. So each session that you complete with an online tutor will be saved to your account, and you can refer back to it at any time before like you review an exam, or maybe it's not until later that you start reviewing for your test. So to access Photo Study, make sure that you contact your ETS advisor and you share your personal email address with them so that we can give you a preset account. And that way, like on our end, we kind of set that account up for you. After you receive a confirmation email that your name was added to the list, you can go ahead and download the app to your phone, then select preset account to sign up and enter the email address that you provided to your ETS advisor. After you complete these steps, you'll be instantly connected to a live tutor via message. So it's super easy to use. Again, you just take a picture of the problem and they'll kind of help you along the way. But in order to access this as an ETS student, you need to reach out to your ETS advisor and give us that preferred email. So again, we've talked about a lot of things, right? We've talked about your college options and testing and all this stuff. So I know that a lot of you are probably already feeling how much you have on your plate, especially as you're preparing into your senior year. So we wanted to talk a little bit about some time management tips to kind of help you get started and create these habits early on, right? So the first one we really want to mention is getting organized. I feel like that's the biggest, that's like the main problem when we talk about time management, right? Because we have so many things going on. So when we talk about getting organized, we really mentioned like finding ways to like get everything organized, no matter how it works for you. If it's for you that you need a physical planner to write your things down, then that works. I know for me, because I have so many Zoom links and so many different invites to stuff, I use everything through my Google Calendar. I just copy and paste the links into the Zoom links into that day. That way I'm not like running through my email trying to find all this stuff, right? And besides me, I like more of a digital thing. So again, anything that I'll have maybe a deadline or an email that I need to send, I'll just put it into the dates that I have so I know what to send out. So whatever kind of works for you to do that, if it's like maybe getting a whiteboard and having it in your room or in your desk or wherever it is that you study and write down these dates, I know for me that really helps too. I need to be able to quickly see what it is that is due and that I need to get done, right? So that's kind of one way. Obviously, you know, there's different ways to getting organized, but try to find a kind of a way for you to do it. And it doesn't need to be fancy, right? Just something that you're able to quickly see and glance to know what is expected of you. So the second one is establishing routines. So you want to make sure that you establish routines so it can help you accomplish a lot of the things that you do. The more often that you stick to a routine, the more that you'll accomplish within that time frame. So let's say, for example, I know a lot of students do this, and it's okay. Sometimes I know that we're all guilty of this. Of like, if you start school at like 9, maybe you'll be getting out of bed at like 8:50, right? And then you're just kind of quickly scrambling to get into your class. So you know that's not ideally what we want you guys to do. Maybe start getting up earlier. I know for me, like I need to have like breakfast, and I need to kind of have some moments for myself before I start school or before I start work. So let's say, for example, I start like around 9 or 10, maybe I'll get up around 7, do what I need to do with like eating, and then maybe I'll take like 10 to 15 minutes to kind of just jot down some of the things that I need to get accomplished today. You know, if I don't accomplish everything, that's okay, but majority of my list, I should feel pretty content with like, okay, I know what I have to do. So the more that you establish these routines, the easier that it'll be for you to kind of feel like you're on top of everything. You want to find and create steady spaces within your environment. So I know we're probably a year and a little bit more into this staying at home, right? So we've kind of at this point, I know some of you have already kind of created your steady spaces, right? But for many of us, it looks really different. I know for me, like when I have my workspace, I have a specific space within my home that I specifically note to myself, like when I'm here, I need to be productive and I need to be busy. So maybe your bed or maybe your room isn't the best space, right? I know sometimes we're limited in like where we actually have privacy to be on Zoom and do our stuff. But just a space where you can kind of mentally prepare and know that when you're here, you need to be productive. And even just, you know, be creative with it. It doesn't have to be like a boring just desk and a chair, right? If for me, lighting up candles works. I like to really smell nice stuff while I'm working. I'll have a playlist specifically for studying, whatever it is that you do to kind of create that study space, especially since we've been, you know, working from home for quite a while now. And then the next one is learning to prioritizing tasks. So you might find yourself having to split your time between your extracurriculars, school, family, friends. Some of you are probably studying for like AP tests right now, right? So you're going to be busy. So you need to consider how to schedule in time so that you have balance and still get done what you need to do. Sometimes that might mean let's say, for example, you have a project due on Monday, but maybe over the weekend you wanted to hang out with family or friends. Maybe you could, but maybe not as long, right? Or maybe you need to skip out on that day so that you're able to focus Saturday and Sunday completely on your project. I know for me during college, Sundays were always my study days. So maybe on Saturday I would hang out with my friends just for a little bit, but Sunday I knew that I needed to take myself to the library. So it's a matter of discipline and knowing like how to prioritize a lot of stuff, but believe me, kind of thinking ahead and starting those habits will really help you in the long term. Eliminating distractions. So, you know, we're all susceptible to it. I know that sometimes we are on TikTok or watching Netflix while we're doing our stuff and we're being productive, right? But it can be huge distractions. Make sure that you're setting aside things for like an allotted amount of time. So we're not saying to just not use these while you're studying, right? But maybe like you're doing your work for 45 minutes consistently without any distractions. And then, after that, take a break, a 10-minute break, and, you can go on your phone and scroll. So it's just a matter, again, of balancing these things out. You want to make a project plan to break down larger assignments. So creating a project plan usually helps you avoid that last minute panic or like procrastination. So breaking down the assignments into smaller chunks, each with its own separate due dates, really helps. So let's say, for example, you have a paper due for the whole semester. Maybe the first 2 weeks of the semester, you want to have your outline done. And then after that, you want to make sure that you write, I don't know, 3 paragraphs of the body essay. So it's just a matter of holding yourself accountable to like, okay, within this time frame, I want to have this done. And that way you're not just waiting everything until the last minute, but really holding yourself accountable to sticking to that, right? And then setting in shorter bursts rather than cram. I kind of talked about this a little bit before, but again, for every 30 or 40 minutes of schoolwork, schedule in like a 10 to 15-minute break to recharge. Trying to work on one thing for too long can actually cause your mind to like wander more. I know I'm especially susceptible to this too. You're so focused on needing to study that you don't actually study, right? So again, be flexible with this, just at least if you're allotting time to really study, and then, set aside that time to take a break. So taking those short breaks is a good way to give your brain a chance to recharge so that you come back with more focused. And then lastly, really rewarding yourself when things get done. So if you're constantly just focusing on your to-do list, it can seem endless, right? And I know for me, I keep adding things and then I get frustrated that I'm not crossing things off. So, and that's easy. That's an easy way to burn yourself out. So really celebrate those accomplishments, whether they're large or small. If you finish that paper, if you're done with finals, whatever it is, make sure that you take some time for yourself, and however that looks like. For a lot of people, it's just like self-care of like taking time with themselves, or maybe just hanging out with others. But for every person has their own way of kind of doing that. But these are just some of the tips that we found pretty much helpful to a lot of students. So now we're going to talk about some next steps. So what should you be focusing on right now before you actually start your senior year? And Jocelyn, if you want to go ahead with these slides.
Yeah, thank you, Diana. So I know we just heard like a lot of information in regards to your like academics, like college options, A through G requirements, but we're going to go ahead and shift over to actually getting started in making a college list. I know many of you are probably already anxious in doing so, and it's super important that you do begin to consider maybe what schools are of interest to you, maybe what you want to major, what is something interesting that you want to study in the long run. So it's super important that you begin to do this. And we're going to talk a little bit of what to consider, what are some important factors when choosing the right college for you. So when choosing the college, you want to take into consideration factors like these that are up in the screen, and we're going to kind of talk about them individually. And some of the things that you should consider first are programs or majors. So like I said earlier, right now you probably are thinking of what major you're interested in pursuing. So maybe you're interested in working with people at a social level, and you want to help them like get resources, or maybe you want to be a nurse or whatever it be. You probably are interested in pursuing biology, or if you want to help people in a social level, maybe you're interested in social work. So all of these factors are very important to consider when you're choosing the college, because you want to make sure that that school that you're looking into actually has your major. Not all the schools have the same majors, therefore it's very important to actually do your research and check if you're interested in social work. You want to make sure that UC Irvine has that. And if they don't, then where does that leave you? Maybe you're going to take into consideration another school. So again, it's very, very important that you consider your program of interest or major. For any reason, if you're undecided as to what you want to do in the long run, you can always go based off of what is of more interest to you, and you can go and choose that school individually. Another thing to take into consideration are faculty and professors. So what is a professor ratio to the student? You want to make sure that if you want a lot of contact with your professor, maybe you want to be at a smaller campus. Again, this is something important to take into consideration. Do you want to be able to quickly access your professor and know that they're always going to be on campus, or that you're going to be able to talk to them? That's something very important. And usually you can find that information, the student professor ratio, on the university's website. Something else that we tend to overlook is location. So when taking into consideration location, do you want to stay in the city? So most of us live in the city. So do you want to stay in the city, or do you want to attend a school in a small town? Or maybe even out of state? Maybe a lot of you are considering, well, I don't want to be in California anymore. I want to move. And if doing that, how will you adjust to the new environment? So a lot of us are really used to the California weather. We're used to being here with traffic in the city. So are you ready to adjust to something different that is probably totally different than California? That's something to consider. And like I said, the weather in this new location, there are some states that it's very cold. It might snow a lot. So are you ready to shift over to that weather and transition to maybe hot weather to cold weather? Are you going to miss it? Are you not going to miss it? Again, it's something to think about. And like I said, these are in reference to all of these factors, you want to take all of them into consideration when choosing the college. We also have distance from home. It is, if you do move out of state, it becomes a lot more complicated to actually visit your family. So you want to take that into consideration. Do you have an airport nearby that school? Do you have a train station that you're going to be able to go to anytime and maybe come home for the holidays? And with that, you also take into consideration cost. How much is it going to cost to fly back home? How much is the train ticket to come back home? So it's the little factors that maybe we tend to overlook and we don't pay much attention to that we should begin to pay attention to. Same thing as reputation, the school that you're going to. We have to start thinking more at an academic and educational side. I know I've talked to a lot of students that maybe they say, I want to go to a specific school because that's a party school. Well, we want to look more than just a party school. Do they have your major? Are they known for actually providing good education? Because remember, you're investing a lot of money and time to actually go to these universities. So you want to make sure you're committing to something that is going to be beneficial to you. Same thing as diversity. If you're used to maybe going to a school that is predominantly maybe Hispanic, and now you're going to switch over to another school, you want to take into consideration diversity. Do people come from different backgrounds? Is there different races or ethnicities at that school? Are you going to be okay with that, or what it is exactly that you're seeking for? As well as financial aid, it goes back to cost. You want to take into consideration financial aid. Is that school giving you a lot of aid to actually attend their campus? Do they provide scholarship opportunities? Are you going to be paying a lot out of pocket, or is everything covered and you have a full ride? So a lot of those things usually are, they make the decision for you, because if you have a full ride, it's maybe more easier for you to commit to that school versus a school that you're going to have to pay a lot out of pocket. So in order to start making that college list, now that that you are all going to start applying to college come fall, these are some websites that you can consider. We have Unigo, we have California College, Naviance, and in these websites, you can literally just go on there, type in a school that you're interested in, and then it will give you a lot more detailed information on that particular school, including these factors that we just talked about. So if you could move to the next slide, Diana. I have an example on Unigo. So this is how it looks. So the example here is UC Davis. So if you just type in UC Davis, it'll tell you like what percentage is female, what percentage is male. It'll give you the cost of like out-of-state tuition, in-state tuition, and it just breaks down every single detail that we just talked about now. So you can use this as a way to determine or condense your college list. Maybe you have 20 colleges that you're interested in, and you have to condense it to 8, then this is a way that you can just go on Unigo, type in whatever university you're interested in, and then they'll break all of these factors down for you. Next slide, please. And then I know right now with the pandemic going on, unfortunately, we're unable to take you all to a lot of the college field trips that we do have throughout the school year. But that does not mean that you should not take initiative to actually seek out other resources that are going to help you do so. So something that we really encourage students to take advantage of now, especially, is virtual college tours. College tours help you visualize yourself on campus. So I know right now it's probably not the same, you're not actually standing in the campus and visualizing everything around you, but it's a way to take advantage of the time that you have now until you can actually visit the school. So some of the most famous websites out there for virtual college tours are UVisit, campus tours, and you can also look at your prospective university website. So for example, if I'm interested in attending Cal State Northridge, I'll just type in Cal State Northridge virtual campus tour, and it'll redirect me to a website where I'm able to take that virtual tour. And in doing so, I'll get more familiarized on the important buildings around campus. Maybe you'll notice whether you like the environment there or not. And again, this is just something you can do now until you actually have the opportunity to go in person, because I do know it's probably not the same, but these are great resources that you can seek out to get a glimpse of what the college campus that you're interested looks like. Something that I do recommend is that you explore multiple websites, because not all websites have all schools. So we have some websites that only have out-of-state schools. So you want to make sure you check out different ones and you just don't stick to maybe UVisit or campus tours, but you actually type in that university that you're interested in, so it can guide you towards that virtual tour that you need. And then with getting involved, this is also something very important to start doing now. I know we talked about college options and applying to college and the tests that you need to take in order to, or that you need to take in order to be, seem more competitive when you're applying. But something else that is also very important is getting involved. So when you're, I know for UCs, it's they take into consideration many factors than just your GPA and your test scores. They want to know, what have you done? So if I'm applying to UC Berkeley and I have a 4.0 GPA and I've done all my homework and I'm a straight A student, but I've never gotten involved on campus or anything in my community, then I'm not going to seem as competitive as another student that maybe even has a lower GPA than me, but has been involved. So you want to make sure that now, junior year, you start getting involved. I know the school year is coming to an end. We're heading towards the summer. So this is a great opportunity for you to start thinking about what you can do. So some ways to get involved is to meet new people and connect with your school. So you want to make sure that maybe you talk to any teachers or any faculty on campus that they're in charge of any clubs or any other programs at your high school, and just get involved. Let them know, like, how can I help? How can I get more involved here? Personal development. So explore different careers and majors. So maybe you're interested in becoming a veterinarian. Maybe you can volunteer at a vet center or at somewhere where you're able to work with animals. This is another great way to get involved, because that way you can put all of this information on your college application and the readers can see that you're actually getting involved, that you're learning more about your career, you're learning more about your major of interest. You also want to demonstrate leadership and dedication. So if you can get involved in your community, maybe you're really active at your church, and maybe you want to do some more community outreach. Maybe you want to feed the homeless, or maybe your church can conduct a food pantry where people from the community can go get food at your church. This is something that you can start getting involved in, or even be in the committee to plan it, and you can write all about it in your personal statements and your college applications. And it's another way to kind of be of a person that has more to offer at the school. So again, like I said, contribute to your community, and that can be in many ways, not just through your church. It can be like, if you know of other community centers within the city you live in, you can also reach out to them. And the most important thing of getting involved is because you want to network with a lot of adults, with a lot of teachers, community leaders, because eventually when you start applying to college, there are going to be some campuses that require you to have letters of recommendation. So I know a lot of students, when that time comes, they don't know who to ask because they haven't been involved, and they struggle to get a letter of recommendation. But if you start getting involved and you've been out there, you know already, I'm going to ask so and so for a letter of recommendation, and I'm going to submit it for my college application. And it's going to become so much easier than trying to determine who am I going to ask, especially if you wait to the last minute to do this. Next slide, please. And then some other examples of high school involvement. Now that you're shifting over to senior year, you can always join any student orgs that you have at your school. Pretty sure maybe a lot of you are already part of these organizations. And if you are not aware of them, I really encourage you to seek out more information on whatever student organization is on campus. This way you can start getting more involved. You can also get involved through athletics. So if you're interested in sports or you're really good at a sport, you can actually go ahead and join the sport at your high school site and start getting involved that way. There's other campus activities that I know maybe through ASB, you can start getting involved. Maybe you can start planning certain events at your school. I know everything's remote right now, but a lot of the schools are actually trying to do remote activities or events. So this is another way that you can ask that if they need help, and you can start contributing to that as well. Everyone here, for the most part, I'm sure you are on ETS. That's already a way of getting involved. You're part of a support program, and you're able to put that on your college application. So the more you're involved with our program, as the first step here is that you are attending this workshop, that's already you getting involved. We don't want you just to be ETS by paper, but actually taking advantage of all the resources that we do have to offer. I know we have a ton of summer programs coming up. So if you're actually participating continuously in our summer programs, you're able to write that on your college application. And again, that way you just don't say you're an ETS, but you can actually specify and give examples in what particular ways you were involved with our program. Right now with the pandemic, we can do virtual involvement as well. So you can become an online tutor. I know there's a lot of websites out there that actually hire online tutors. So this is maybe a way that you can get a job, or even just get that experience if you're very good at math and you want to share that knowledge with other people. You can also apply for remote internships online, or you can learn a new language or a new skill. Maybe you're interested in learning the violin. Maybe you can take some classes online and start doing that. You can also form a study group. So if you know there's a class that a lot of your classmates are struggling with, you can take initiative and say we can form a study group, and maybe we can study through Zoom. And this is another way to get involved without actually have to see people in person. So if you do want more information on other virtual involvement, I do encourage you to reach out to your ETS advisor. I know we have a whole sheet that has different websites that you can go on there and seek virtual involvement. So if you're interested in getting that worksheet or that handout, just make sure you reach out to your ETS advisor. And then now that we talked about all of the ways that you can get involved and the things that you can do to prepare for your college application, we also have our ETS personal profile worksheet, which is also known as a brag sheet or a resume. So as you begin to get involved, or maybe you already been involved in freshman year and you have a lot of experience in different categories, you can use this sheet to kind of break down everything you've done. So a brag sheet or a resume basically highlights your accomplishments, your key experiences, your leadership skills, and possible employment throughout your high school career. This is going to make it so much easier when you start applying to colleges and university, as you can just take this sheet out and you can start just typing everything you have on this sheet to your college application. Another benefit of the brag sheet is that you can share your brag sheet with teachers, counselors, or coaches when asking for a letter of recommendation. So I know sometimes it's easy for you to ask your teacher for a letter of recommendation, but maybe they don't know a lot about you. Maybe they only know you in class, but they don't know about all the community involvement you've done in the past. So it's very important that you share this sheet. That way they can reflect that on your letter of recommendation that they're writing for you. So like I said, use this information in your senior year when completing the UC and private independent colleges applications. I know for a fact in the UC application, there's going to be a section that is going to tell you to put all your involvement, maybe any work experience, any community and volunteer experience. So instead of maybe wrapping your head as to like what you need to write, if you start working on this right now, you'll just be able to pull it up when the time comes and just transfer all your information onto your UC application. We will be sharing this handout with you on the Google Drive, and we'll talk more about it later on. And then lastly for this, we have scholarships. I hope that many of you are familiar with this scholarship list here in the screen. If you are looking out for the reminds coming in from your ETS advisors, you know that every month we do provide a scholarship list where you're able to just apply to various scholarships that you meet the requirements for. So again, scholarship is basically free money that if you qualify for it and you're eligible and you receive the scholarship, that's free money that you can use towards school. It might be sent directly to the campus that you're going to be attending, or it might be sent directly to you as a personal check for you to maybe buy school supplies or cover other educational costs during university. So again, if you do apply for scholarships and you get a scholarship, that just means you have more money for college, and maybe you don't have to take as many loans out. So some important tips to consider when looking at scholarships. is that you want to make sure that you're considering only college websites, because it does increase your chances of getting a scholarship. So if you're applying to a scholarship that maybe is open to people all over the United States, then you already know you're competing with so many students. But maybe if I go on the Cal State Long Beach website and I look for a scholarship that's available for high school students, then I know I'm only probably going to be competing with students within my area. I know a lot of the high schools also provide scholarships. So maybe come senior year, maybe your high school has like a scholarship. You can apply to those. And again, it might be less competitive because you will only be competing with the students within your high school. So we have community-based scholarships that are also better. And you can also check websites like FastWeb. I know College Board and Big Future have a lot of scholarship opportunities for you there. But again, if you don't know where to start, all I recommend is for you to just get your phone, send a remind message to your to your ETS college advisor, and they can send you the scholarship list. Again, we have a new one every month, so it's something that you can be on the lookout for.
Okay, thank you, Jocelyn, for that. So I know we have a few minutes left, so I'm just going to quickly touch on some of our upcoming events for our juniors. Again, Jocelyn emphasized the importance of getting involved, right? And so for a lot of us, maybe we're more comfortable with virtual involvement. So these are just some of the things that we're going to have for our ETS participants. So the first one is our interactive workshops. So we are going to have some interactive workshops planned for ETS students in the summer, kind of similar to our paint night. Maybe some of you have attended that event before. So we had this event where students were able to kind of paint along with an art instructor. It was really cool, very relaxing, but we were also able to learn about art majors and careers. So far we have planned a yoga workshop for June 2nd, where students will be able to participate in a beginner's yoga session. So we'll do maybe some basic stretches, maybe some breathing exercises, right? So more information about this interactive workshop will be posted through our Instagram pages and on Remind. So make sure that you are on that and you're reaching out to your ETS advisors. We also will have a summer STEM program. These are STEM programs for our different schools. So June 14th to the 24th will be specifically for South Bay schools. June 21st to July 1st will be for LA, Linwood, Compton, and Long Beach schools. So this is a program if ETS students are interested in STEM, they'll be able to participate in our 2-week virtual event via Zoom, where so they'll learn how to put together a Vex VR5 robot and learn some of the coding involved to build that robot with an instructor. So students who participate in this event in its entirety may be eligible to receive a $100 stipend at the end of the program, along with a $15 meal card vouchers available for each date of activity. So this is only open to our 9th and 11th grade students. So please make sure to check out our page on IG. We have that link in our link tree in the bio. It's also posted on the flyer where you can actually access that. If our ETS staff could maybe add the handles for our Instagram pages. If you're not already following us on those, please do so. We post a lot of our events that we're going to have in the summer, and we can have the link on there as well to these events. The last thing that we're going to have for juniors is our College Prep Academy. So this is going to be from July 12th to July 16th. Every year we host a College Prep Academy for juniors to attend in the summer before their senior year as a way to kind of get ahead in regards to college information and college applications. So in the past, we've had students attend the Long Beach campus for our workshops throughout the week, and we would incorporate a fun activity on the last day of the academy. A few years ago, that's the picture that we have there, that we took students to Disneyland, California, and we participated in the STEM activity hosted by the staff at Disneyland. Although, you know, we can't meet in person and have this event due to the COVID regulations, we are still hosting our College Prep Academy. It's going to be done via Zoom, and it's going to be during those dates. So some of the workshops that we'll have during this academy will be things on like how to write your personal insight questions for the UCs, which we'll also have another workshop for, and actually help you with the application. We'll talk to you about financial aid and financial literacy in more detail, career major exploration, and kind of what to expect as a first year student, right? So it's a great opportunity to list in your brag sheet, and it looks really good on your college applications. A lot of the students who attended College Prep Academy were really great students that we've had in the past, and we know that, you know, because of that activity, they were able to understand a little bit more about college. So you'll receive more information about this College Prep Academy and the application through your ETS advisor. And once we have that application ready, we'll be posting it on our Instagram account. But that's just some of the things to look forward to. We do have our Google folder. So some of the stuff that you'll be able to access in the Google folder will be resources that we mentioned today. So we'll talk about, you'll see a flyer in there about college prep programs. If you kind of want to do some other summer programs, we will have that financial aid 101 term sheet. We'll also mention the photo study flyer that I talked about as a free resource for students to use. The brag sheet that Jocelyn mentioned will be in there, as well as your A through G chart and a May scholarship list. So make sure that you have that in there. Jocelyn, if you can drop the link to the Google folder so students can access that. And then I think we're gonna go on to our opportunity drawing now that we have a few minutes left. So Diana, I'm not sure if you have the names of the students. So if you wrote your name in the school of attendance, we put you into our opportunity drawing, which will announce the winner in a bit.
Yeah, so we have 3 opportunity drawing winners. I'm gonna play a little bit of music in the background. I don't know if you guys can hear it or if it's too loud, just to wake you guys up a little bit. But we are gonna have 3 winners. We're gonna send you guys the gift cards through your email. So I'm gonna put the instructions in the chat now before you guys get all excited and miss the instructions, but you're gonna email us and then we will send you the e-gift card through the email that you provide to us. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so we can see who the 3 winners are. Okay, can everybody see that? Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna spin the wheel 3 times. After the first winner, I'm gonna delete them from the wheel. All right, our first winner is Yay, Angie from Bell High School. So go ahead and email us with your email so we can send you that e-gift card. Next winner is Juan Guzman from Banning High School. Same thing, go ahead and email us. And then our final winner is that's Jasmine Evans from Cabrillo. Congratulations, guys. Go ahead and follow the instructions that are in the chat so you guys can get your e-gift cards.
Okay. Congratulations to the winners. Again, follow these instructions to get your e-gift card. Now I kind of want to open it up to some questions. So I did get a question sent to me. I don't know if any of the panelists want to answer this, but how do I know if I'm eligible for fee waivers, for the SAT and or ACT fee waivers?
I can answer it. Well, based on experience, most of our students who receive like free and reduced lunch at their school, where there's a few other like questions that you have to answer, like based on the resources that you might receive from like your school or from the government, you would be eligible for them. So once you go on to actually like sign up or register for the SAT, it'll give you a series of questions. And then after you answer those questions, it'll let you know like, okay, you're eligible or you're not. So that's one of the ways. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything.
No, I think you pretty much got it. Yeah. So those are kind of some of the eligibility requirements for the SAT fee, or the ACT fee waiver. But if you do have any questions, if for whatever reason you can't access that, remember as ETS students, you should qualify. So we can give you those fee waivers as well. I do have another question. If we should do the SBAC exam. I don't know if any of you on the panelists or ATS staff know a little bit about the SBAC.
I think some of the schools require it. So your counselor in your school will set it up for you guys to take it while you're in school. So it's an in-school test that is administered by, I don't know if it's like the California education system, but it's kind of like what was the test that you would take in high school, like the CAT or I don't remember what they were called. But they're kind of like standardized tests that you take in school that your school administers. And I'm not sure if you can opt out of them, but I don't think you can. And a lot of the times your SBAC score, it could be used for, like, let's say you're going to El Camino, they can use that sometimes for placement, for English and math as well.
Okay, thank you, Diana. I don't know if we had any other questions in the chat. I just received them right now. So what email do I message to redeem the card?
I just added it to the chat once again. So it's ets@cscob.edu.
Okay, perfect. And I do want to specify that Andres shared a link that's now accessible for that the Google folder, so you guys can have access to that. If for whatever happens, you want to access that later, ask your ETS advisor and we'll have that link ready for you guys to share as well through Remind. But do we have any other last minute questions before we kind of wrap it up? I know we're a little bit past time, but I just want to be curious of that.
Yes, we have some questions, Diana. So someone asked, how many recommendation letters do we need for the UC application? And what do they ask for?
I can go ahead and answer that. So you don't necessarily need specific letters of recommendation for the UC application unless you're like applying for like a scholarship, or maybe this the major that you chose asks for a letter of recommendation, but it usually varies. So I can't give you a solid answer as to how many letters you will need, but it's always good to be prepared in case they do end up asking for that.
Thank you. And then someone also asked, how much does it cost to apply to a UC and how much does it cost to apply to a CSU?
Last time I checked, because it's been a while, but last time I checked, wasn't the price for UCs like $70, and then for CSUs it was $55. I believe that's correct. So they usually it stays the same for the most part, but I know for like CSUs it went up a little bit. But that's pretty much the range that you should be looking for those schools.
Okay, and then someone asked, what if I haven't been involved in many activities at school or in my community? What should I do about the brag sheet?
So I can kind of answer that. So I know as a junior, you're probably thinking, well, I haven't been involved. This summer is going to be really that opportunity to be able to be involved. So that's why I really recommend that if you qualify for any of our programs through ETS, do them. You know, we really help you guys in being able to be prepared for your senior year. Even if you have responsibilities at home that prevent you from like being involved. I know that was kind of my case as a high school student. So make sure that you're noting that on your brag sheet too. If you're taking care of younger siblings, if you're taking care of family members, especially with what's going on at COVID, you want to make sure that you give yourself that credit. So again, I know sometimes it takes a minute for us to reflect on what we've really been involved in at school, but make sure you talk with your ETS advisor. If you even need help filling out that brag sheet, we're more than happy to help you with that too. But I would definitely suggest this summer is where it's really going to count. So get involved with us. If it's not with us, with any internships that maybe your ETS advisors know, or really any kind of resources that are available in your community.
Okay, and then next question is, I used my school email when I created my College Board account in school, and I also think I have more than one account. What should I do?
So for that, you want to make sure that you call College Board. You can email, but honestly, it's a little faster if you call them, and make sure that you let them know that you have multiple accounts, and they're going to need your information. They're going to need your name, I think your student ID or the SB ID that they will have in your account to be able to merge all your information into one. And it's really important that you do this now, preferably because by your senior year, when you're setting up all those test scores and for your APs and whatnot, you want to have access to your account. So I would definitely contact customer service. If you're having issues with that, let your ETS advisor know and they can kind of help you through and walk you through that process.
Okay, and then final question that I have is, can I start applying to scholarships now, or is it just for seniors going to college?
Yes, you can start applying to scholarships now. Again, if you do get the ETS scholarship list, it will tell you the requirements on there. So just make sure you do meet the requirements. Usually if it says it's open for high school students, then you should be able to apply. But you can do that as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions that we have.
Okay, perfect. So it seems like that's all that we have for you guys today. Hopefully that you guys enjoy this presentation and all the information. Again, it's a lot, right? But if you have any questions about any of this process, make sure you reach out to your ETS advisors, and we really encourage you guys to sign up for our summer programs as well. So thank you everybody for joining us, and we hope that you have a good rest of your day.
Bye.